Yo, what's up, guys? Mike Patrick. In this video, I want to talk about how raising growing daughters has evolved my perspective on women and my relationship with women. Okay, guys? Now, this is going to be a very, very important jewel dropping video. Okay, guys? A jewel dropping perspective. All right? As far as healing and getting back to the best of our potential. Okay, guys? Now, with my daughters, guys, my first child was my son, Napoleon, okay? And then when I had daughters, even through like the first 3 or 4 years of their life, you know, I still couldn't appreciate what I know now and what I'm coming to know now based on the fact that they were so young and they couldn't interact but so much and they couldn't teach me but so much. Not to say that they couldn't teach me, and certain things happen when you have children anyway. Okay? You change anyway once you bring another life into this world. And once you realize that's an extension of you, your whole perspective changes. Okay? One way or another. Okay? Now, but as they grow, okay, as my girls grew up and they were able to talk to me more, express themselves to me more, obviously, more time spent together as they get older, and things like that. You have a different perception and a different perspective when you come from a certain background and you have a certain pedigree and a certain way that you deal with the opposite sex. Okay, guys? Now, I'll start by saying this. When I was younger, guys, in my environment, not necessarily my immediate environment, but just my environment, as far as neighborhood, school, just however you're brought up in your community, okay. The type of people that I ran with or who I came up with, you know what I mean, some of my boys and things like that, we had a certain perspective and a certain way that we dealt with girls and women, okay. And so when you deal with girls and women that way, and that's what you see, and that becomes your game. You know what I'm saying? You don't have as much of a respect sometimes, okay? You know how it is growing up as a young man. Sometimes you kind of, especially if you decent with girls, like if you never really had no problem with girls liked you and things like that. You kind of looked at them as something disposable. You know what I mean? As an item, okay? As something that was there to completely serve and please you under any circumstances. Excuse me. Now, and when you look at it like that, and you don't really think like, well, that's somebody's daughter. You know what I mean? That's somebody's sister. That's somebody's cousin. That's somebody's friend. Okay? And the thing about it is, being from the demographic that I'm from, there's a lot of young girls who grew up misguided, okay, or didn't have any guidance because they didn't grow up with their fathers, okay? And it was real easy to take advantage of them, or easier to take advantage of them, okay? And with that said, as a young boy, especially if that's your culture and that's all you see, okay, you're just going to try to use them to your advantage. You know what I mean? And you're not really looking at it like, okay, cultivating, nourishing, I'm sorry, nourishing them, you know what I mean, and really, really respecting them and taking their best interest into consideration, okay? And with that said, a lot of young girls, they grow up under those circumstances, and then they end up getting damaged, or they have a lot that goes on in their life, and then it's like a snowball effect. Now you have women that you're complaining about a lot of times, but we help make these monsters, so to speak, right? So the thing about it, when you have a daughter though, now that's your little girl. You see what I'm saying? Now she growing up. You don't want her going through the same things that you might have put other girls through growing up, not taking them as seriously and things like that. You wouldn't want somebody to do that to your daughter. Once you're a father and you got a daughter, you wouldn't want somebody to treat your daughter like you might have treated a lot of your girls growing up. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't want nobody treating your sister like you might have treated a lot of other girls growing up, right? So you really have a respect for that, and a change of heart and a different perspective, okay? And like for example, with my children's mother, you know, even though I was still doing certain things or acting certain ways, or now in hindsight I could see a lot of my faults. I still had them even after she had my last daughter. You know what I'm saying? And I'm still working on stuff now. You know what I'm saying? but but at the same time, it was still it was still easy to be that way because, like I said, I think I said it a little earlier. You know what I mean? Like when they little, you can't really appreciate them and that aspect of it right then and there until they get older and they start developing, okay, as a person. You know what I mean? Actual emotions, actual feel, have an actual once they personality start to form. You know what I mean? You will ask yourself like, you know what I mean? If they didn't have me in their life, you know what I mean? Would I want somebody to treat them like I treated their mom? You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? For a lot of, not to say that we all bad guys or that we have been all bad. But I'm talking about the things that need to be worked on. I'm not talking about what we do right. I'm talking about the things we got to work on and the perspectives that have to be given and the things that got to be talked about. You know what I mean? In order to make change. All right. Now, the thing about it is, guys. Now, I'm not saying this to pander to women because of a lot of the past traumas and things that we have been through. Um, you know, a lot of women are damaged, and so you got to know who to deal with and how to deal with them while still embracing people. Okay, so with that said, it's not to turn your back on women altogether because you wouldn't want nobody to turn their back on your daughter. Okay, and it could be a woman who you may think or who may be very damaged right now, but perhaps that was that little girl who ain't grow up with her father. Perhaps I know people, you know, got issues in growing up under all different circumstances. So I'm not using that as an excuse. But if you from a certain demographic and you remember growing up, you just think about some of the girls who got a lot of issues and traumas probably now, or things that they can't erase from their past that has damaged them now, that if they just had better guidance, somebody there for them, you know what I mean, like a father is supposed to be, then they wouldn't have made some of the decisions they made back then that may be affecting their life now. You see what I'm saying? So that's a whole testimony to making sure you stepping up and being a father and the emotional and mental development of your children more than just money and stuff, because you know they got enough money, right? Because even if you ain't in your children's mother's life, you know what I mean, a lot of guys are still have to pay for them though. You see what I'm saying? So that go to show you just finances ain't the answer. Okay, matter of fact, it's secondary to this in our community. You know what I mean? So being there for their emotional and mental development and keeping them pure as possible until they are developed and they are grown, and then they can make certain decisions for themselves. But we got to give people a chance first, right? So I just wanted to share that, man. I think that's gonna hit home with a lot of dudes, a lot of women too, a lot of people and children. You know what I mean? You know, just it should change your perspective once you have growing daughters. It should change your perspective on what you think of women, how you think of women, and how you treat women. Okay, guys? And like I said, don't get me wrong, some people are damaged and some people ain't trying to heal, ain't trying to come back. You know what I mean? And then like I said, you can still love them people, but love them from a distance and just try to be a living example, and hopefully it can rub off. But of course you can't deal with everybody. Like you can't try to give every woman a chance, saying like because you thinking like, well, okay, we trying to heal, you know what I mean, whatever, we got to start, looking at it differently you know what I mean, when women have certain pasts and things like that. But you know what I mean. But when it comes to the mental and where their heart's at, some women ain't coming back from that and don't care and don't want to. Okay, and so that's the ones you gotta, you know what I mean, keep you a long pole and keep your distance while still being able to help them too. All right, guys. Hopefully this was a helpful video. Peace.